would like to talk about a couple of characters in this succession war and get in depth amongst the chaos. Now, even when I say a chaos, it's a bit of a silent chaos because this war is a cold war. It's an implicit war, none of the explosive stuff, although it's coming. I'm sure it is coming. But because of its nature of being this slow war, it's understandable that some characters get hidden amongst the layer and layer of protective facades that they portray so that they can at least protect themselves or be able to attack amongst the chaos. And among those, I think we have one that might surprise everybody. We're starting this with the number 2. That would be Camilla, being the first daughter of Queen D'Azul. D'Azul being the most active of all queens, if you know what I mean. Camilla has big responsibilities because she ends up being the second prince and the first daughter of D'Azul. So they have a bit of a relationship, or at least she has a bit of advantage over her siblings. We also learn that Camilla, she does suffer from body with a crazy bitch face syndrome, but she also has a certain sense of style. She clearly cares about her appearance, and we can just gather it from her appearances every single time. She has this dignified look, and she seems to look the talk and talk the look. Is that even an expression? But if you get what I mean, you get what I mean. She simply looks good and knows how to present herself to look good. And when we first actually learn about her in a more in-depth situation where she actually talks, we get a bit of a sense for her. And that's when she talks with her sibling. And the first interaction is crazy because what she says first is, "You should be killing yourself for me," which is a crazy first statement. That's a dead first statement. But we get a big hint on how she is or who she is, because she expects them to kill themselves so she can win. And she mentions after that fairness. But the way she mentions it, we understand that, or at least we would be brought to understand that she is entitled, and that's how you would feel it. She has a certain entitlement towards everybody. She seems really entitled to the title of king and to anything else, and she has that entitlement, and that's pretty much what we've got, or at least what it seems like we've got about her. It's that attitude, it's that self-assurance, it's that confidence to simply ask them to do that. And it's a crazy first impression. I can't say that enough. It's crazy that she says that, but also we have to pick up on everything else that she says. Even in the next panels, we understand that she actually speaks in a weird manner, or at least in an interesting manner. Let's not diminish her because of how she speaks, but she never actually mentions the term, or at least the pronouns I or me. She always talks about herself in the third person. She always says Kami, Kami, blah blah blah. Kami says type shit. And it's an interesting way of speaking that sort of, I would have said, is not akin to how she is. I would expect her to use big honorifics to talk about herself, but she talks in the third person. I think that's one of the hints we can already gather. But the manner of speech is already pretty different, or at least pretty unorthodox. So much so that we can assume that her mental capacities, or at least how she thinks, is unorthodox per se. Not to say that she is stupid, but she is unorthodox, or at least has a certain level of self-vision or self-understanding that is quite unorthodox, quite different. And that's why I want to delve into it later. Going forward, we learn a bit more about Camilla. Now, she is not associated with any of the mafias, but she has her own army, and that's pretty rare among the princes. Prince with her own army, with a whole army, is pretty rare. And later on, we learn that these are people that were rejected among the society of Kakin. Although I see Camilla has, or at least she's presented as self-entitled, that comes a bit of a surprise because she went out of her way to get soldiers among the most rejected people of Kakin. Now, is it because she understands how much they are rejected and expects them to bring in as much loyalty because of how much they owe her? Good question. But I feel like that's a way far away group to look for support amongst everybody in the kingdom. And we go forward and we understand that these people also have strange abilities, although nothing quite shows that Camilla is aware of those abilities herself. But going forward, we'll keep an eye on that. And other aspects that we have to keep in mind about Camilla is that she actually has a certain understanding of Nen. She knows Nen to a certain extent, to the point that she created a Nen ability, and that would be the cat with a million lives, a cat that is simply able to revive her when she dies using Zetsu by crushing the assailant and transforming his life energy to Camilla's life energy, which in some ways plays into those first words she uttered. And that's the interesting thing. Really, her whole character feels like it could be simplified with those first phrases or those first ways that she acted in that banquet, because it left such a strong impression. And going forward, we even get a dinner that Camilla holds with her mother, which is a rare occurrence amongst all the princes. And she's talking about stylistic choices and such, but then she switches it immediately to talk about her plans in this succession war and who her targets are. And she talks about Benjamin, then goes to Hulkenberg, which, if we want to get into those choices, I don't know if I want to get into it now. Well, heck, let's go into it. Benjamin is an obvious choice, being the first prince and having access to the royal army. It's an obvious choice for Camilla. Now, Hulkenberg is not so obvious, but with the latest chapters, we learn so much more about his heritage, and we know that maybe that's why he was referring him instead of anybody else, which is an interesting choice. And with all that information, or at least with that resume of the information concerning Camilla, we gotta get in depth into what I actually think about her. Now, I do believe Camilla has a certain level of self-entitlement, but I actually think that she has a certain level of care and selflessness that we don't see throughout these chapters, or at least she has that care that doesn't showcase or that she doesn't show on first interactions. It's more of a care that you will see in how she acts beyond what she says or how she talks. Not to say that she's some sort of tsundere or any of those tropes. I'm saying that she will take actions in all confidence for people without saying that these are actions taken for people, if you know what I mean. And what I would say are examples of that showcase is that she is pretty reliant on actual people, but not using them as objects, because when we learn that she actually contacted the most looked down upon group in all of Kakin and made them her soldiers by providing for them rights, pretty much rights, houses and everything good that they would need to live proper lives, well, they give her an eternal loyalty, but we don't actually see her commanding them in a manner that would bring forth their death. And we get an inkling of that when she actually tries to go for Benjamin for the first time, which is an interesting interaction that we have to keep in mind. She goes for Muse. Muse kills her. The cat revives her. But then keep in mind also, when the cat revives her, she is grateful to the cat. And there is a certain complicity between her and the cat. It's not just transactional. And the choice of animal and the interaction is something important for me to keep in mind. I'll come back to it later. Then she goes for Benjamin. But right before she goes for Benjamin, her guards come to her. And you can see that her guards are really pressed to attack. Her guards are eager to take actions against the other princes. But Camilla says, what, do you want to go yourself? You know they're gonna kill your whole family. And that was a surprise to me, because that seemed like a lot of care from Camilla. She wanted to go herself. That's all in character from what we've gathered so far. She's a bit impulsive. That's sort of in character from her so far. But when it came to her caring enough about her guards, her royal guards who are looked down upon, and again, her character from what we've seen so far would lead somebody to believe that she would be somebody to look to who looks down upon certain people. It was a surprise for her to showcase that amount of care towards her soldiers, that amount of attention. And she says, will you be going? No, because you would be at risk. She had less risk to take by taking action, so she took action. And I want to keep that in mind, and I don't believe that was just an all-out impulsive attack, because although she doesn't seem like the brightest, she has a certain level of intelligence and a certain level of understanding of the succession war, because she has the finesse to work the politics Muse and the prince. And then that's where I have to go back to her ability and the fact that she calls herself Cammy. Cammy to me seems like a way that she distances herself with herself by saying Cammy instead of I. It sort of puts a certain distance, although it seems like just a greater way to say her name again because she likes herself that much, and I don't doubt that she does. I think that there is a certain level of selflessness that came from that Cammy per se. I'm losing the thread there, but what I'm saying is she seems to have some sort of background or trauma that brings about that pattern of speech. That's what it seemed to me. And she has a certain level of care and attention that she gives to certain people. And when I say certain people, it seems that she has requirements that make her like certain groups to the point that she would be putting their life on an important list. Now, when we get to the Nen abilities, as I wanted to get about it, I think it's interesting that it's also a Nen beast, but this one is the cat, and she's talking to the cat, and she's telling it nice job. Those are characteristics that I wasn't expecting from what we've seen of her, but it seems that that's how the relationship is with the cat. The cat is smiley, the cat is sort of happy, satisfied, and their interaction is really nice. It doesn't feel, the cat, for example, just the design of the cat is free. There is no chains, there is no design of attachment, there is no obligation, and the cat is presiding over her and providing that energy, and she is not, let's say, she doesn't seem to be just ruling over the cat. It seems like just a nice relationship. But she also mentions that she has no need for her Nen beast, and to me that seems to hint at something more in depth, about something that she can't see. Although it's associated with her, she cannot even see it, and it wants, or they want to collaborate. She has no need for it, and she doesn't feel the need to use that Nen beast or to have the Nen beast take action, and she's satisfied with that. And I'm thinking, because that's the character I'm making up right now in my mind, I'm thinking that she has no real connection to the Nen beast as much as she has with the cat, as much as she had with her soldiers, and as much as she has, with maybe her mother. It's all about that trust, and she builds that trust across all these characters, and I believe that's what makes her care about an individual, which softens the blow about her being some sort of psychopathic, non-empathic, narcissistic prince, that goes about and only thinks about herself and only thinks of Gucci. I think that that's the nuance that comes into her character. Her being somebody who absolutely cares and absolutely has a heart, but never has to talk about it, but always is thinking about it or taking actions for those beliefs that she doesn't show. That's who I actually think Camilla might be. Although she always seems to have these crazy eyes, crazy glares, and impulsive actions, I don't think those define her. I don't think those are how we should be seeing Camilla. But nothing is out of the bag yet. Everything seems to be still low key, and her actions to me speak louder than her own words when she went out of her way to help the lowest of the low population. Is it because of her knowledge of their ability? Maybe, but she never showed or has showcased her need to use somebody. And just the fact that she went on an all-out assault by herself to Prince Benjamin shows to me that she was not hiring them just so they could be fodder and be sacrificed for her success. I think that the sacrifice that all these characters are planning to do for her is actually being done in secret, and she doesn't know about it, but she was just keeping them as soldiers, and everything else that they might do for her is beyond what she asked them to do. At least that's how I see it. And yeah, that would make that's probably who Camilla might be that we don't know about. But if you want to know more, you're gonna have to wait more, and I would be hyped to see that. And I really do believe that theory, because it never made sense for me that she is an all-out evil. Although a lot of presentation of the other princes seems to imply that she is part of that crazy first princes or crazy higher princes. There are some details among her actions that just don't speak on that same lane, or just don't stick with that same lane. The solo assault towards Benjamin, the Nen beast, her manner of speech to her own subordinates, and just her overall way of acting, I think show that maybe there is a bit of a facade to her lack of empathy and such and such. And we might get surprised. And I would be hyped to present when the time comes that that's how she is. Well, thank you for the watch. Hope to see you again. Don't hesitate to let me know what you think. Bye bye.